Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to talk about. This is a very important day for a number of reasons. We're going to talk about the Durham probe, basically investigating and almost certainly prosecuting or indicting attorneys, tech executives, tech researchers, a lot of the people that were paid by the Democratic Party, by the Clinton campaign, similar to Michael Sussman, the third person indicted by the Durham probe special counsel. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Hit subscribe to the stock market crash channel below in the pinned comment. We are going to also talk about the market crashing over 1,200 points at today. The Dow Jones down 1,200 points. The NASDAQ down over 5%. So really quickly, at one point, it was down much closer to 6%. The NASDAQ was down 647 points today, and the Dow was down 1,200 at earlier today, and it finished 1,063 down. The worst day in 2 years. And I predicted all of this. Hit subscribe to this channel. Hit subscribe to the stock market crash channel below. To my super chat, thank you so very much. I can't do these without you, ladies and gentlemen. So to my super chat, thank you so very much. If you want to support these live streams, the super chat is right next to, it's in the chat right next to where you write a message. If you want to support this channel, it's greatly appreciated through super chat during the live streams. Let's get this party started. I told everybody for years and years, not only would the stock market crash, and we're seeing this, but that anyone who worked, who was given money, so really quickly, we were seeing not only the Durham probe special counsel, but we're seeing inflation through the roof, 9% inflation. We're seeing contracting GDP of 1.4%. We're seeing corporate profits declining. We're seeing an overvalued market that was propped up by $10 trillion in fiscal and monetary stimulus completely imploding. We are going to see a derivatives nightmare, unfortunately, that I wrote about and I predicted in the Federalist in October. I told everyone this would take place. The market is tanking. The economy is basically, we're in a recession right now. 2 quarters of negative GDP. And this, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, was the result of policies from the same people who tried to set up and frame Trump, who were just fined by the FEC. They were fined because you cannot purchase a dossier and claim that it's a legitimate fundraising or campaign document or a document for a political campaign. You can't do that. It's not possible and it's not legal, okay? You cannot claim that a Steele dossier is part of legal advice and consulting. This is the main reason that privileged communications, that attorney-client privilege cannot be used to prevent the Durham probe special counsel, John Durham, from obtaining 1,455 documents that Michael Sussman, Fusion GPS, the Clinton campaign, the Democratic Party, Glenn Simpson, and others want hidden. It is not possible to hide that information. So the same people who set up and framed Trump are the same people whose policies led to record highs in inflation, contracting GDP, a recession that basically we're in, and other countries, Germany, a bunch of other countries in Europe, Sri Lanka is on the verge of bankruptcy. We have a whole bunch of problems. We have global GDP at global GDP contracting, and global debt reached a record high of $300 trillion. What does that have to do with the Durham Probe Special Counsel? There's a direct correlation between people who just want political power and will do anything, will stop at nothing to achieve that goal, and ending economic activity. They ended economic activity 2 years ago to kick Trump out of office. And then 6 years ago, what they did was they set up and framed Trump and everybody around him. You're talking about people whose policies led to a financial catastrophe and whose policies led to FEC fines and violations because they set up and framed an incoming candidate under the pretext that he was a national security concern. They fabricated a national security concern out of nowhere. While now we're experiencing the greatest geopolitical crisis in modern European history under their watch. So, I mean, all you have to do really quickly, just have to read the FEC. The FEC fined the Democratic National Committee and Clinton's 2016 campaign for violating rules with the funding of the dossier at the center of accusations between the Trump campaign and, the Coolidge-Reagan Foundation filed a complaint against the DNC and Clinton campaign in 2018. And the FEC, in a statement dated March 29, said the fine for the Clinton campaign was $8,000 and the fine for the DNC was $105,000. This, mind you, was not against Twitter policies. Remember the whole discussion about Twitter policies? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very, very much. Oliver, hello. Everybody here, hello. Eric. D'Artagnan, hello. Everybody, thank you so very, very much. Florida Man Bear, everyone, thank you so much. I was going to have a live stream at 9. I might do a live stream at 9. I'm not sure. Hey, Guy, hello. Go Raiders. Thanks, everybody. Anita, Ronald, Nunya, hello. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Jake, thank you for tuning in, everybody. But you can't go ahead and publish, and they also worked with media. So there's 18 U.S. Code 371 and 18 U.S. Code 1031. These are statutes that say that you've broken the law if you conspire to promote a phony, fake, fabricated, contrived narrative to deceive government officials and American citizens. You cannot deceive the American people. And that's what they did. I mean, you just look at the policies of Democrats the past. Look what they've done since 2015. They're basically known for creating and fabricating Trump Russia, and at the same time, while at the same time, a couple years later, doing everything possible, or 4 years later, doing everything possible to end economic activity, which is why we're seeing a collapse in the stock market and a collapse in the economy, and also within society with homelessness and crime and all these problems we see in major cities. They always talk about systemic injustices. They don't bother to tell you that they either caused or exacerbate these systemic injustices. They talk about marginalized and communities that are dealing with poverty and systemic issues linked to U.S. history. They fail to tell you that those communities are governed by Democrats. Go look at a map of where the greatest issues with supremacy and injustice are. You will see a Democratic mayor or a Democratic governor. They completely ignore these problems. Inflation alone has caused more problems than people can even comprehend. How many families now find it difficult to put food on the table? How many families now have to go to the supermarket and not buy everything they want? Wild Cajun, thank you. Mikey Barbie, just got home from work, glad I could make it, bro. Mikey, thank you. Thank you very much, Mikey. Thank you so much, Mikey. Thank you, Lisa. Hello. Wild Cajun, hello. Thanks, Mikey. How many families across the country now are being pushed back into poverty? This is the thing Democrats don't understand. We're going to get to the economics and the market. When Democrats talk about, like, the main reason to be a wonderful, morally superior Democrat, really the main reason is because you can say, well, I care about the poor. I care about poor people. That's what you can say, I care about poor people. It's very important to me. And that's like the whole like one of the benefits to being a Democrat, I should say, like one of the things that make Democrats feel good about themselves is that they're willing to pump money into any government program. They're fine with government programs, and they're willing to pump as much money as possible into society, because money to them is just, the government exists to alleviate poverty and wealth inequality, and unfortunately, what their policies have led to is greater poverty. Thank you, Lynn. What their policies have led to is greater poverty and greater wealth inequality, greater, more profound systemic injustices and economic injustices. You cannot end economic activity. I mean, these are the people who talk about democracy and how Trump is a big menace to democracy. It's like, they set him up and framed him. And then his last year in office, they pushed to end economic activity, then pumped $10 trillion into the economy, as if that was going to duplicate an actual economy. And then we find out years later that, oh, by the way, purchasing the Steele dossier was an actual violation of laws governing 2016 and fundraising. And oh, by the way, you just can't do that. So you can't claim attorney-client privilege when your actual, you can't claim attorney-client privilege. You cannot claim attorney-client privilege when you are being fined for purchasing or for hiring and outsourcing attorneys, tech executives, political research companies. You can't claim attorney-client privilege when you're paying. This is interesting. The FEC, this is the law firm One, paid Fusion $1 million. $1,024,000, $1,024,407.97 for the dossier in 2016. Was it worth $1 million to tear apart society? How many friendships, how many family members have been torn apart because apoplectic and hysterical, morally superior liberal Democrats who are completely ignorant of this fact and completely and utterly unwilling to look in the mirror, like, to understand that this was setting up, this is the antithesis of democracy, the opposite of democracy, to pay an opposition research firm $1 million to accuse an incoming candidate of being installed by the Kremlin. Does that make, I mean, they got $1 million to tear this country apart. And that's really what it comes down to. They got $1 million to spread one of the greatest lies and hoaxes and myths in world history, not just American history, to think that there are tens of millions of people. There are tens of millions of people who will forever, until their last breath, believe that Trump was installed by the Kremlin, even though there is not a shred of evidence, not even one shred of evidence. When they say contacts, they mean hearsay, innuendo, gossip. Who cares if Trump had contacts? He wasn't being paid, or he wasn't accepting donations from a company that was eventually purchased by the Kremlin, which is what his direct political rival did. The Clintons also had contacts. They were far more extensive. Guess who had lunch outside of Moscow at the home of the president of that country? Oh, that's right, Bill Clinton. That's according to The Hill and Newsweek. Oh, don't bring me into this. So it's like they're paid $1 million to funnel lies into the United States government. The intelligence agents were highly to moderately confident. The intelligence officials, they never had any direct evidence. They never had a shred of evidence. Adam Schiff and Dianne Feinstein, everybody, we have something between indirect and direct, something between, in between, something that smells like or sounds like direct evidence. They never had anything. Between the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Central Intelligence Agency, and the National Security Agency, we have, a $30 billion budget for all three combined. And not one of them can say, yeah, we found emails, we found a money trail, we found a cyber digital communication that Trump was installed by the operatives of another country. All they can say is that it was a sophisticated campaign of Facebook ads. That's all they can say. And Twitter bots. And they were interfering. In every single election from here on out, if Democrats do poorly, it's because the Kremlin interfered. Interference being a euphemism for all the nasty things that Democrats do. And the only thing they can get with Madison Cawthorn is a very bizarre video, which is basically Hunter Biden's daily activity with anything and anyone. So it's like they always have to, when it comes to Hunter's emails, the entire machine shuts down. And you are not able to look or even talk. You will get completely excommunicated from Twitter and from any platform if you dared speak about Hunter's emails. But you can definitely find a video on any conservative, that's for sure, I'll tell you that. There's no problem at all. So, you're looking at not only a red wave, but not only a tsunami, but it's going to be, it's interesting. They want to They want to end the filibuster right before they lose the Senate and House, which is so hilarious. And they don't even have the votes to do so, but it's so hilarious. They're like, pack the courts. And they don't realize that when Republicans get in office, they'll add more Supreme Court justices, and it'll just be, at the end of the day, 50 years from now, 1,035 Supreme Court justices to 1,037. And then conservatives will have the 1,037th judge, and then they'll be like, oh my God, pack the courts more to 10,000. It's just completely apoplectic always. They cheat their own candidate, Bernie Sanders. I don't know if you've heard this. In the 1 year that would lead to 3 Supreme Court justices, when they were saying vote blue no matter who, they were saying, vote blue no matter who, because the Supreme Court is involved. Yeah, and so then why did you cheat the only person who could have won? You elected the person who I told everyone would lose. I was telling everybody that Clinton would lose to Trump. Just like I was telling everybody the market is going to tank, and we're seeing a stock market crash. We're seeing the market completely, there are people and I understand it, well, it's not a crash, it's a correction. Go to all the financial channels now. There's a lot of good financial channels out there. There's a lot of good people on the financial channels who are losing a lot of money. There are a lot of financial channels who have like, I'm a fan of a lot of these people. Like, I watch these people. There's some like I watch more than others, but it's tough to see because I don't want anyone to lose money. And there are people who have like apparently some of these YouTubers have like $1 million to $10 million in the stock market, and it's not good. People are losing a good amount of. It's really terrible. They're losing like hundreds of thousands of dollars every day. If indeed they have like, there are financial YouTubers that are very interesting to listen to. And a lot of them are very young. And they have a lot of subs, some of them. Like they have millions or hundreds of thousands of subs. And it's very interesting. They're in their like late 20s or early 30s. And I don't know if they like really remember the .com bubble. I don't really know if they remember the .com bubble. I don't know if they truly remember 2008. I mean, they do, but it's just kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting to kind of see like, you know, it's not amusing to see people lose money. I don't want to see people lose money. But the younger you are, the more this will be news to you. And we're going to get to the stock market in a second because it's something I really wanted to talk about. But here, The Reactionary. This is a great Substack from Technofog, who is a fantastic attorney. And if you look, this is the court. This is the Durham Probe Special Counsel and one of the attorneys that's fighting to. So the court, okay. If I decide to review the 38 emails, are there any emails that the campaign would like me to review that might support its position in the Fusion's internal communication on these issues, or for the purpose of providing legal support, as opposed to pure opposition research and dissemination that is not covered by privilege? Your Honor, I don't. As I stand here, I don't have anything in mind to suggest that. But I do think that a certain attorney is entitled to go about his business in the way that he thinks is appropriate, and to essentially, like, well, what? You're claiming attorney-client privilege. The transcript also sheds light on the content of emails, or at a minimum, the subject matter of these emails. All 38 emails relate to Alpha Bank allegations. Okay? 30 of those emails are internal Fusion emails, and 8 are correspondence involving Tech Executive 1. So here we're getting to why people are going to get indicted. A lot of people, unfortunately. So this is actually really, really, really important. And he goes on to say, I am not saying that there was never an instance where one attorney who worked with, Michael Sussman, or the attorney who helped purchase the Steele dossier, was seeking out certain expertise from Fusion. But I am saying is, when you look at instances, and cabinet along with this is 38 messages that we've identified, which is related to the Alpha Bank allegation. And when you see that Fusion is promoting all the materials distinguishable clearly from the situation Your Honor is explaining, the court. And you believe that I would be able to make the distinction by looking at, let's segregate the first 30, which I take are internal Fusion emails, versus the second 8, which seems to be correspondence between Mr. Sussman and Tech Executive 1, who appeared to be in attorney-client privilege at that point. Right, okay. The judge also pressed Hillary for America attorney about the broader Fusion GPS media, a role in media relations. So obviously, when you're talking about Sussman and Tech Executive 1, it has nothing to do with attorney-client privilege when they're trying to conspire to deceive government agencies, which is what they were doing. That's pretty obvious. But then you've seen, this is the court and the defense attorneys, but you've seen the emails that were produced, and when Fusion tells a reporter, do the Alpha Bank secret comm story, it's hugely important. Forget forget that. Okay, so do one story that's actually false and forget another story that's actually true. How is that assisting one of the attorneys in providing legal advice to the campaign? So, Your Honor, that seems much more direct. That's assisting a media relations strategy. It's getting information into the public realm, and that has been produced. The court. So, I guess my question is, I've read the attorney who purchased the Steele dossier's declaration. I understand from his perspective the purpose of Fusion's retention, and it may well have done research that directly facilitated legal advice or defamation risk. The whole point, they were engaged in defamation. Are you kidding me? How can they talk about defamation when they're literally engaging in that practice against others? But I'm not convinced that it's the basis for a blanket assertion of the privilege over every internal email, which I understand that the campaign and DNC asserts. Well, I think the point is, though, Your Honor, is that when we looked at we should produce and made the judgment, no, this should be produced. It was mindful of the very point that you were raising. What? We've identified, so this is the witness. And then if you were to rule 30 emails are not privileged, you're not going to come back to me with 1,500 that you want to review, Your Honor. So not for this trial. I do think that Your Honor's decision, though, is important for the investigation. And then with respect to the tech executive one Sussman tech witness Fusion GPS witness emails, I am dubious that the government has met its burden to pierce the privilege, but I will look at the emails nonetheless. So Fusion. Let's see. So this is just dubious about Durham's argument about the 8 emails regarding tech executive one weren't privileged, seemingly buying the argument from the counsel that okay. So this is interesting. So the tech executive one might get the benefit of doubt in a couple of the emails. But here, if you look at the key passage, and that was within the transcript or the legal documents the court documents that I was reading. This is Technofog. We have the transcript from yesterday's fight over privileged Fusion GPS emails. Key passage. Clinton campaign lawyer was asked if he knew of any emails supporting their claims that Fusion was providing legal support. Clinton lawyer, I don't. So let's just see. So here is, Your Honor, Your Honor, I don't. So here's the if I decide to, this is the court, the judge, if I decide to review the 38 emails, are there any emails that the campaign would like me to review that might support its position that Fusion's internal communication on these issues were for the purpose of providing legal support? And then the attorney says, Your Honor, I don't. As I stand here, I don't have anything in mind that suggests that. So there you go. There you go. They can't claim legal advice when they're literally breaking the rules when it comes to campaign finance and utilizing fundraising and donations to go and infiltrate, basically engage in surveillance, lie about your political opponent. I mean, it's like so obvious. It's right there. It's right there. This happened right in front of everybody. This happened right in front of everyone, ladies and gentlemen. And it's like, this happened right in front of everybody. They purchased a dossier. This is the thing, is like, the Durham Probe Special Counsel is not going to get a lot of media coverage because media was a part of setting up and framing Trump. We don't have a media that cares about truth. They care about propping up one political side. That's why you have, it's pretty unbelievable. That's why you have journalists crying when Trump won. Because they made Trump into a monster even before his first day into the Oval Office. Then they set him up and framed him. With all of this nonsense. Now they're trying to say, well, no, you can't go ahead and you can't obtain emails that we utilized. You can't obtain emails, that we want hidden from the court because these emails were attorney-client privilege. But attorneys were being paid to commit either illegal activity or unethical, very deceptive activity. You can't hide behind attorney-client privilege when you are literally getting fined by the FEC. You can't hide behind attorney-client privilege. If the Clinton campaign is paying if the Clinton campaign is paying attorneys to work with tech executives and to work with opposition research companies, you can't just simply say, well, this was actually consulting. And then when the FEC investigates and actually finds when the SEC investigates and actually finds the Clinton campaign and the DNC, it's a big problem. It's a huge problem now. Because now you have the Durham probe getting pretty much all the documents he needs. All the documents they need. And if you look, ladies and gentlemen, really quickly, or we'll segue into this, because it's important. You have Dow plunges, and it's only going to get worse, ladies and gentlemen. They're raising interest rates while the economy is contracting. So what do you think is going to happen to economic growth next quarter? They raised interest rates while the economy is contracting. And this is like the Durham probe special counsel and the stock market crash are two things linked to how inept and absurd Democratic policies and their behavior and the fact that and the norms that they care about. What happened to norms and traditions? Trump was supposed to have completely obliterated norms and traditions. And Richard, hello. David, hello. Sheila, hello. Everybody here, hello. Tammy, hello. What happened to norms and traditions? Like, wasn't it a norm? Like, when was the last time American society ended economic activity? And I don't want to hear about, like, it's very interesting, too. People say, well, it's because of, you know what? That was a choice. You didn't have to do what you did. You didn't have to end economic activity because of you know what. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to end economic activity because of you know what. That was a choice to be made. It's interesting now how, like, it's interesting how people can't differentiate between a choice or a horrible decision and something that you had no choice, something where you had no way of doing anything other than the decision that you made. Like there are moments in life where you couldn't do anything else. There's certain moments in life where there was no chance for you to do anything else. You had no other opportunity to act differently. All right? Then there are most moments in life where you had a choice. You could take the road less traveled. You could go ahead and listen to one expert versus another. You can put 10 experts in a room, and oftentimes the consensus will be wrong and the dissenting opinion will be right. Sometimes, most of the time. Or in some instances, it'll be oftentimes. So, when we ended economic activity 2 years ago, they said everything will be fine. These are the same people. They've been right about nothing. They Trump Russia'd the past 2 years. They engaged in the most apoplectic and hysterical public relations monstrosity. This is why they're so horrified and petrified that Twitter is going to be owned by Elon Musk. Dow plunges more than 1,000 points in Wall Street's worst day of the year. CNN, Washington Post, Dow, NASDAQ fall sharply as stock market adjusts to interest rate concerns. It's not really adjusting. Everything is collapsing because corporate profits are either declining or they're going to decline to around 2019 levels. If corporate profits decline to early 2020 or 2019 levels, then the market is completely and utterly overvalued. And everything's going to crash. Everything is crashing, but everything's going to come down, crashing down to where they were in 2019. In 2019. So if you look, this is the NASDAQ, but let's look at the Dow. So they pumped $10 trillion into the economy. And if you look, the beginning of, in January, 2 years ago, in January, we had record low unemployment. We didn't have the inflation we have now. We didn't have the supply chain problems. China didn't have the debt problems that it has. The global economy, national debt increased by what, like $10 trillion? Our GDP surpassed national debt at around this point. So if you see, right before it tanked to 19,000 in the Dow, right before it tanked to 19,000, and it'll get to around 20,000, I think. It'll easily get to 24,000. And that's like 8,000 points lower than it is now. But if you look, did we have, before we ended economic activity 2 years ago, look at the chart. Did we have inflation at 9%? No, it was at around 2%. Did we have energy prices and gas prices that were skyrocketing in price? No. Consumer sentiment was good. We had record lows in unemployment. We had GDP growth. We went from all of that to Democrats saying, we'll save you, we'll cause the immense unemployment, but it's because of you know what. We have no other choice. We have no other choice because the smartest people in the room say, we need to do this. Well, what about the dissenting opinion? No. Those people are bad people. They're completely nuts, and they don't know what they're talking about. In fact, they've been kicked off of Twitter. In fact, anything that's against a consensus is kicked off of Twitter. Anything against a consensus that is kicked off, anything against or outside of a fabricated consensus, any dissenting viewpoint, is kicked off, is suspended or kicked off of Twitter. And you have then this taking place. So here's a 5-day chart. I mean, the volatility index is at all-time highs. And let's see, year to date, you're down. Since I told everyone this thing's going to tank, that was in October or so. It was at around 30, right after I told everyone this thing's going to tank, it was at around 36,000. It went to 36,000. And then it went up and down, Then it went to 36,799. And now it's at 32,997. And it's going to get to below 30,000. And look, it's going to get worse, people. It's going to get a lot worse, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to get a lot worse. It's going to get a lot worse because you have corporate profits that are going to decline. And Bitcoin price, past 5 days, went down. It was close to 3,000 earlier today. But it's 2,000. The past 5 days is down $2,200. So that's Bitcoin. NASDAQ is just tanked today, 5%. It was down like 5.5%. And the thing is, if the interest rates go up, as the economy contracts, corporate profits will decline, big time. And when they decline, you're going to see the valuations plummet. And you're going to see, unfortunately, a big problem because there's $5 trillion in hedge funds. So there's $5 trillion in assets in hedge funds. And we don't know how many hundreds of billions there are in terms of margin. And like Richard, exactly. If you have, ladies and gentlemen, if you have all of this, like, the market is tanking while the economy is contracting, while interest rates are going up, while inflation numbers come out May 12th. So the new inflation numbers come out May 12th. And they'll almost certainly go up. In fact, if they go down, I won't even believe it. But if they go down, it won't be by a lot. But I don't see how they could go down. When you have this is a global problem now. So this is the game they play. They're like, well, we had to do this because of 2 years ago. Then every country does the same, like, counterproductive commits to the same counterproductive strategy devised by organizations around the world that know what's best for every single country. Right? Every country has to have the same economic plan when it comes to what. No country could deviate, even though their ideas and their plans were terrible. And what takes place is then you have supply chain breakdown. You have oil and gas through the roof in terms of price. Economy eventually contracts. We're heading into a recession. And it's still, if you have if you have the Dow over 30,000, that's still, anything over 30,000 is still very overpriced. So the NASDAQ's taking a huge, huge, huge hit. Year to date, it went from 15,832 to 12,317. It's down 3,000 points, 3,500 points year to date. That's huge. And it's going to get down to very likely, probably 11,000 within the not so distant future. But how long will it take to get us out of this? If we have a debt problem, so we have debt and contracting GDP and skyrocketing inflation, what is that going to do for the labor market? What is that going to do for consumer sentiment? I mean, everything's going to get worse. Everything's going to get a lot worse. Everything is going to get a lot worse. So there's really, the Fed has become, Jerome Powell is like, he's a politician. He's not an economist. He's basically a politician. Two years ago when they said, well, we have to end the economy. 2 years ago when they said that, they should have simply, when they ended the economy, we should have simply, there should have been pushback. They should have been pushback. Timothy, thank you. There should have been some pushback, but see, again, they have a pretty good, they had a pretty good grasp of Pete, hello. Hello, Pete. Hello, everybody. They had a pretty good grasp of any dissent. They banned and suspended any dissent on social media. So let's see here. Inflation. If this man says, do you understand? He was saying invest in the beginning of the year. If he says inflation is peaking, you can rest assured inflation is getting worse. No offense to Jim Cramer. This is hilarious. Why does he see it peaking? Oh my God. CNBC's Jim Cramer urged long-term investors to remain calm. This is the man who said by Facebook and by, what did he say? PayPal. He said by PayPal, yes. This is fantastic. This is fantastic. This is hilarious. CNBC's Jim Cramer. Bargains are being created by this panic. Really? What stocks do you like, Cramer? If you have cash like we do, it's time to put more of that money back into the market. Wow. Poor man, I don't want him to lose money. Well, it's not his money. It's CNBC's imaginary money probably. So stocks were getting crushed on concerns about rampant inflation and whether the Federal Reserve is doing enough to stamp it out. This is what could possibly happen here. We're not panicking, Cramer says. Well, you should actually. Inflation will not be like this 3 months from now. Why would it not be? They think that actually the mentality among a lot of people is that inflation will get down to 2%. Inflation will get down to 2019 levels, according to Jim Cramer. Why would that happen? JG! JG, hello! JG, hello. I hope all is well. I hope all is well, JG. Why would that happen? Why would inflation get to 2019 levels? Does that make any sense? Wait, hold on. We have to do this. Okay, Jim Cramer also said, this is hilarious. Jim Cramer. Hold on. Hold on. Jim Cramer. Jim Cramer's top 10 picks for 2022. Most likely they're all down tremendously, but here. Hold on. He was very... So... What did he write? This is just hilarious. So Jim Cramer in December of 23. One of the most bullish things about this period? Okay, so he made a whole bunch of statements late last year saying, oh yeah, this is... We can go into... He made a lot of statements about, well, first he said invest in PayPal and PayPal and Facebook before their stocks tanked. So hold on one second. Let's see, PayPal, Facebook. If you invested in... Okay. There's so many great quotes from this man, and I can't find them right now. God, why can't I find them? But he doesn't... This is really hilarious because he was very... I did a segment on the Stock Market Crash channel about 3 months ago. Let's see if I could find it. Basically, not to be mean, but anything he says regarding stocks, if you do the opposite, you'd actually be a lot better off. He's never going to actually tell you, oh, this is a really bad time. So so he's never really going to say, you know what, this is a really bad time to invest. Here, 4 months ago, I have a segment on YouTube. So he basically had how investors should react. So there's a segment that he has on YouTube. How investors should react to Fed Chief Jerome Powell's news conference. This is June 16th of 2021. And it was basically, it was kind of hilarious. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to head out in about 7 minutes or so. But the whole thing's going to tank. So a lot further. Inflation, just like when they said inflation is temporary, now they're saying, oh, well, you know what? Inflation is, it's going to subside. No, it's not going to subside at all. Why would it subside? Why would inflation subside when we're contracting as an economy? Does that make any sense at all? How on earth could inflation subside when we're contracting as an economy? We think that it doesn't matter what Powell said. What matters are the machines. These machines are set to trade off a bond. We reached 3% on the 10-year. These machines know that we're testing Powell's decision to go against 75 basis points. He can't go against. Powell helped create this problem by ignoring inflation last year. Now he can't raise it 75 basis points because it'll definitely become as too much of a shock, especially the hedge funds that will tank. They have to worry about massive fluctuations in the market, which are already taking place. You can't have fluctuations that are too grandiose. That's just, exactly, JG. Stagflation is temporary. Exactly. Energy prices are likely to remain due to the geopolitical crisis. Mashed potato brains Biden is getting sued by 14 states and oil and gas associations. So that was long before what took place under the watch of his presidency. So if he sees signs of inflation peaking, that means inflation is going to continue. But see, again, it's not just like there are about 5 or 6 or 7 major things that we're seeing. It's not just inflation, it's contracting GDP. How are we going to grow the economy? There are no policies that mashed potato brains Biden has to grow the economy. Not one policy has he focused on economic growth. They're talking about packing the courts now, and oh my God, it's like the end of the world. They're not talking about anything. They're not talking about economic growth. I mean, there are no policies that they have to grow the economy. They're getting sued by oil and gas companies. They definitely don't want an end to the geopolitical nightmare. Why doesn't mashed potato brains meet with those two leaders to try to create some kind of negotiated deal? Has anyone ever talked about that? Has anyone ever talked about that? Has anyone ever talked about some kind of negotiated settlement to end this? It's like that's not even part of the equation. It's not even part of the equation. They don't want to even talk about the possibility of finding some kind of solution to the geopolitical nightmare in Europe. So it's like, then you have not only that, you could have China easily invade Taiwan. And you say, well, you know what? Richard, exactly. They don't want economic growth. They don't want an end to the geopolitical nightmare, because then they can say, well, that's the reason for skyrocketing inflation and energy prices through the roof. It's like, no, the fossil fuels are single-handedly made fossil fuels a lot more expensive because of their policies, these wonderful policies that they care about so much. And it's like they don't even acknowledge the suffering that inflation and contracting GDP and a stock market crashing will cause. Exactly, JG, exactly. They're all about promoting fear. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see how they respond to Republicans who will be Trump Republicans. Okay? It'll be very interesting to see what happens and how they respond, because the Trump Republicans will want payback. And they're all after Madison Cawthorn today. It's like, well, that was a really bizarre video. Very bizarre. I've never seen that happen. nor would I ever kind of allow that. I would never allow that to take place, like in my view, or to me for sure. But like, that's like a daily activity. You want to talk about deviant behavior? Any one of the emails or videos or whatever from Mashed Potato Brains or his son's emails, I should say. And here you had Mashed Potato Brains being accused of something infinitely worse than Trump was ever accused of. But there you go. I mean, talking about the biggest hypocrites of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I did an earlier live stream today. I might come back tonight, I'm not sure. But hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. JG, everyone here, thank you. If Kramer is saying that, you know what, things are good, it's probably not at all. Almost certainly not. Thank you so very much to my super chat. Thank you. Everybody here, thank you. And I will probably not be back. I'm not sure. But stay tuned. I'll have definitely a couple of uploads. But stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you for a live stream either tomorrow night or maybe later this weekend. Give me your thoughts below. Thank you so much, everybody. Subscribe also to the Stock Market Crash channel. Thanks, everybody. David, JG, everyone here. Mikey, thank you again.